Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to a new week 30, everyone. Just quick things. Make sure you check Google Classroom for our agenda for the day. Make sure you post some good news on Google Classroom. Make sure you check out the AP test updates. And make sure you join us at 10 a.m. today for our required, keyword required, Google Hangout, okay? So chapter 24, we're starting. If you have watched the AP video, the AP test video, we have two more chapters. We have chapter 24 and 25, okay? So this chapter starts on page 547, two sample means. Here we go. Before we jump into all the fun, just want to let you guys know that just 3 questions I want you to go through. Number 25 is about confidence intervals. 27 is about hypothesis, and 21 you're going to be actually doing both. Okay, so these are, if you can do these 3, you're good to go for this chapter. Your quiz is going to be on Friday. Remember that we are doing a little bit of review on each chapter. So we're going to do chapter 24, and then 7 through 10, if you guys remember. This is on linear regression, and I know this is one of your favorite topics, about slope and y-intercept, and what a slope of 0 means, what a y-intercept of 0 means, re-expression, things like that, okay? DFSU. And then this is just the 2 sample means that we'll be covering starting today. My good news Mondays, man, outside it's nice and sunny, so overnight it rained, but then, after rain, things always look so crisp and clean. The rain somehow washes a bunch of things away. I like that. I had some cereal for breakfast. You guys know me. The Breakfast of Champions, granola, and cornflakes. And then later today, I plan to ride my bikes with my 2 sons. What are your good things? Make sure you post that. All right, so let's just go over all the different types of hypothesis tests and confidence intervals we've gone to. Remember, each scenario has a confidence interval and a hypothesis test. All right, so back in chapter 19 through 20, we did 1 sample proportions. Remember, proportion is P. It's a percentage or a proportion. Then we did 2 sample proportions where we subtracted them. We said the proportion of one thing is equal to the proportion of another. This was chapter 22. And then last week, chapter 22, this is the week right before, our last week of meeting together. And then last week, we covered chapter 23, which is 1 sample mean. So these 2 are similar, right? 1 sample proportion, 1 sample mean. And then now, this week, we're going to be covering chapter 24. And guys, can you believe it? After this week, we have 1 more chapter to go. So remember, next week is spring break. Enjoy spring break. And then after that, chapter 25 will start up, okay, the week after spring break. There's a key difference between T and Z normal distributions, okay? So make sure you guys check out that. It's on page 523 and other parts of the book. Basically, in summary, if we're talking about proportions, we're using Z. If we're talking about means, we're using T. And the curve, as n increases for a T curve, it gets closer to a Z. The tails on a T curve are a little bit fatter. And look at the illustration on page 523 for that. So the main idea, I just want to go over inference. So this word inference, right, to infer something is you're trying to draw something out of, you're trying to make a conclusion based off of the evidence that you have. And this is what we're doing here. We're using sample or samples in the case of 2 proportion or 2 mean samples to make an inference about the true mean or proportion. Remember, we don't know the true mean or the true proportion of a population. That's what we're trying to make a guess or an inference on based off of a sample. Okay? It's like you have a big pot of soup or stew, and if you want to figure out what the whole pot of stew or soup tastes like, you take a little sample, you taste it, and then you can make an inference about that big pot of stew or soup. Feel free to pause the video anytime, okay? So our goals this chapter is we're going to do a confidence interval for 2 sample means. Oh, by the way, do you guys remember the symbol for a mean? Yep, if you wrote down X bar, a sample mean, you're correct. Now in chapter 23, we just dealt with 1 sample mean. Now this chapter, 24, we're going to have an X bar sub 1 and an X bar sub 2. Okay, and remember the 1 and 2, it's up to you. Whichever, you can use different variables, different letters, different numbers if you want. You can even write it out. So we'll do a confidence interval, a hypothesis test, and then we're going to talk about something called pooling, which came up 2 chapters ago, and I told you to save that for now, okay? All right, so that's it for today. I will see you later.